Well, hello everyone. My name is John Jackson. I'm the pastor, the senior pastor of the DFW Family Church here in Dallas, Texas. And it's good to be with you today. Well, first of all, I guess if they don't have those conversations with their children are going to have those conversations with someone else. And, that happens at school, it happens with friends, and for me, that's just not the area I want that conversation to start. I think that conversation should start relatively early, not about sex necessarily, but at least about intimacy and purity and things of that sort, because I think it's important that young people understand that sex is a beautiful thing that God meant for men and women to enjoy. And it's I like one of the greatest gifts God gave a human being. But what's happened is it's become something that throughout history is now you can't even talk about it in the open. It's talked about in the dark, or it's even done in the dark. You can't even do it in the light, right? Or it's spoken about in whispers, but not when anybody's around, for heaven's sakes. So there's this foreign thing that goes on, and kids, they want to know, but they have no idea. And so we have this talk about the birds and the bees. People talk about, when you're going to have the talk with your kids. And I don't know if it's one talk. I think it's a series of give and take in trust with your sons and daughters that you ought to have. I had my daughter came home from school one time and she said, "Daddy, my best friend, her best friend is a little girl who she went to school with, and just a fantastic kid. And she went to one of the local churches in town, and she said, well, Daddy, they believe that they're supposed to be pure, having no sex before marriage." And I said, "Yes, that's good." And she said, "But she's dated 4 or 5 guys already in junior high, and just one after the other, and that's okay." And I said, "Oh, yeah, that's not okay." And she said, "Right, I understand." And I said, so I started talking to my daughter, and I said, purity is more than not having sex. Not having sex is not what we're talking about. Well, it's more than the physical act, right? Purity is something within. It's something that it's a quality of heart and mind. And so my daughter, of course, was agreeing with me because I'm her dad and I teach her, right? So, we were in agreement. But the thing I realized is that she was telling me this. Society doesn't realize, even those who are believers, they don't realize that every time a young boy and a young girl date, they, God forbid they break up. But most times, young people get together way too early to have this kind of mature relationships. And what they end up doing is one breaks up with the other. Now, the fact that we call it a breakup means someone's heart's broken. And actually, the person who's doing the breaking is kind of broken too. So both people walk away from that experience hurt. Now, our hearts become damaged because we're afraid of love now, or we take love for granted, and our relationships for granted, or people for granted, or however you want to say it. And then now the little girl who was broken up with, she doesn't trust a young man anymore. So she can't really give her heart to someone, especially the guy who I think is out there that God prepared, right? The right guy, right? She can't really give him her full heart because she can't trust now. So everybody has this kind of situation. So what we suggest is that purity is more than just not having sex. It's keeping your heart pure, keeping your mind pure, and most importantly, protecting the whole heart, right? Protecting that quality, that innocence that you want to give to one person that you can never give to another. You can only give it to one person. And so for me, I try to teach our kids that this is what you're doing. You're protecting something that's so precious, and you're not. It's not, And when you do, when you finally come to the place where you find the right man or the right woman, and it's the right person because God's telling you, that's the one, right? You know it, and I was sharing with a young boy the other day, and he was telling me, "Oh, Reverend Jackson, I remember how you told me that I would know when it was the right person." And I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Well, you know that I tried to, a couple times to find someone, and it was always like so hard work. Every time I tried to talk to that person, it was just so, it felt like I was working so hard all the time. And you told me, I don't think that's the right person for you, son." And he said, "But that you said to me, I never forget it." He said, "You said, when it's the right one, you're gonna know it down to your core. I mean, it's just gonna be easy." And I don't mean easy like it's easy, because you gotta make effort, but it's gonna be, it'll be almost effortless in a sense, because this person and you have a chemistry that's beyond the two of you. It's more than that. And you'll know it when the right one's in front of you, because it'll flow so smoothly and things will go right, and that person will feel it too, and you'll know. And he said, "Guess what? I met that person finally." And you're 100% right. When I met her, it was effortless almost. It was the conversation. I always had trouble talking to a girl, but now, because it's the right person, because I waited like you told me to, I met the right one. And our give and take is so good. We can just talk, and it's free, and it's like natural, and I'm not on edge. I'm not, this is what we're talking about. We want to keep that purity in our hearts, so that when we find that person, and I believe the right one is out there, not the right 2 or 3, but the right one is out there for each person. But we have to be a little patient. Golly, it makes more sense to be patient in love than anything, because the more patient you are, and the more careful you are, and the more you cherish, you're going to give someone the most precious thing you have. The most beautiful thing that you possess is your love. It's the most powerful thing that you possess. Doesn't that make sense? That you just take a little time, right? Just a little time to get that right. And then when you do, and the other person's, you find someone like-minded who's taking time to find the right person too, oh my gosh, what a beautiful thing heaven can do when that man and that woman come together in holy matrimony. Those are the people, that's the kind of counsel that I try to give people, young people and older people too. When it comes to your kids, I mean, you love them, right? You don't want your kids to stumble and fumble over this kind of stuff. And the only way they're going to be able to really do that is if you open a dialogue with them that's free, non-judgmental, and open. Because kids go through stuff. There's so much pollution in the world. Oh my goodness gracious, they go to school, and they're in elementary school, and they got little iPads, and you guys know, right? Anything is on an iPad today, or on a cell phone. Oh my goodness, it's terrible what Satan is doing with technology, right? And it's so, you got to be so careful with your kids. And people are saying, "Well, I don't want to talk to little Jane or Billy until they get old enough to understand." Listen to me. The average age of a child today that sees pornography for the first time is 8 years old. And it's not mom and daddy who's showing it to them. They're seeing this at school, or they're seeing this in the playground, or this something like that. Or they just happen to type in the wrong thing on their search engine, and oh my goodness, right? So I'm not saying that we have to break this ground too early, but I'm saying that we need to take care of our children, prepare them for what this fallen world has to offer. And we need to give them the protection or the tools that they need to work against that. And the most important thing you can do in that regard, I promise you, brothers and sisters, I'm telling you, this is the facts of life. The most important thing you can do as a father or as a mother is open a dialogue with your children where they feel comfortable, where you can open that door, and so that they can tell you if something's happened, or they can express to you of what they're going through. If they don't trust their mother and their father enough to have that kind of give and take, what does that say about the relationship mom and dad has created? It's not the kind of relationship they need. What they need now, they need a mom and dad who's proactive. They need a mom and dad who's, not pushy and shovey, but but they need a mother and father who knows, who can tell them, listen, I love you, I care for you, I want you to, I want everything good for you, and in this particular area in your life, your parents really want you to have the best of everything. Love making is supposed to be one of the highest standards of giving there is. And yet this world has made love making only taking, right? It's just become a world where everyone's here to please oneself. Who's going to teach our children that that's not the way it's supposed to be? If not me, if not their mother, who's going to do that? You know, I don't want some elementary student, teacher in the 4th or 5th grade to be teaching my children those kinds of things. First of all, I don't believe it's their place. Not that they shouldn't teach, things to help our children to grow and develop, and that's fine, I'm okay with that. But it shouldn't be the place where our children are learning the fundamental principles of love. Because they're teaching science. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about a way of being, a way of living one's life, a way to really truly experience love as God intended us to experience it. So I think that door should be opened by a parent in a very careful way. If you want to call it the birds and the bees, okay, do that. But I'm not talking about a science lesson. Let the school does what that you can do that too. I think that's important. But I really believe we have to take the upper hand when it comes to understanding what love is, how love making should be. I think it's important for a dad to counsel his son or his daughter or his son-in-law or his daughter-in-law. When I say counsel, I think it's, I was talking to a young man the other day, and he said, Reverend Jackson, my wife and I, we got married, and we'd maintained our purity up until the time we met each other. We got married, and we really felt the blessing of God. God had blessed us, and we took it so seriously. He said, and my parents and my church, they were really focused on teaching us how to maintain, how to keep a pure life before marriage. But it seems like once we got married, it was like, okay, go, do it, whatever it is, go do that thing, that you've been told not to do all your life. And it's like, what? They didn't know. It's like, I didn't know what to say, because no one was saying anything to me. And he said, I felt like they took me to, the 2-yard line and then just, fumbled the ball. I didn't know what to do. It was embarrassing. It was it was awkward. It was, for me and my wife, he said. And I said, oh my goodness, that's so sad. I believe that's the time when a mother or a father should spend time with his child or their children or their son and daughter-in-law and really tell them, look guys, you've been protecting this love of yours for so long. So beautiful. You are champions of love, in my opinion. This place where you're in a place where I believe God, from the very beginning of creation, created man and woman for this moment, right? This is when procreation takes place. Surely God wants to be right there in the center of the Bible says God is love. You can't tell me that God doesn't want to be a part of that, right? So you invite God into this relationship. You can't do that unless you're mindful of God, unless you're conscious of His presence, right? So a father, me, I'm a dad, I got 5 kids. I want to be there when my kids are taking this most important step in their life. I want to counsel my son, hey son, this young lady, she's protected her purity for you her whole life. You need to respect her, honor her, take your time with her, be kind, be gentle, be a gentleman in all ways, and remember one thing. God is loving your wife. He's loving her through you. God's loving her through you in this most intimate moment. And the same goes for you. God's loving you through her. So remember that God is with you in this moment and that it's beautiful and it's precious. And, cherish it, protect it, even there. And here's the key, but when you do it this way, purity is never lost. Never lost. It continues Even after a man and a woman come together in holy matrimony and then they consummate their marriage, their purity is never lost. They keep that and sustain that all their life with one another. It's a beautiful thing, and this is what we want to hand down to our kids. And the only way I feel that we can do that is if we're involved. And I don't mean like nosy, right? I don't mean like busybody involved, right? But I mean as a loving dad and mom, we're taking the time to share through our kids' life as they grow what intimacy is. You know, let's be real. Men, we can be done with the sex process in moments, in minutes, in seconds, Women, that's not enough. They need intimacy. They need to be safe. They need to be, all of it. And men should be, take their time and be gentle and let his wife know that she's the most beautiful and precious thing in his life. And he's really loving and caring for her and fulfilling, her needs before his own. Where is that going? Nobody does that anymore. That seems to be the way of the world. Everybody's looking out for themselves. In this particular area, this is the one area that'll destroy marriage. It will end the marriage because one's not caring for the other as they should. So where is your sons and daughters going to learn that if they don't learn that from their parents? I think it's so important that a mom and dad share. So, I could go for a while, but I think that's enough. Thank you, everybody. God bless.